Welcome to the Lit Marriage Podcast with authors and Christian relationship coaches Cassidy and Daniela Parlane. On this podcast, you will discover how to transform your marriage from autopilot mode to keeping the flame of purpose, passion, and romance lit in the marriage that God designed for you to have. Learn to love intentionally together. Are you ready to keep it lit? Here we go.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Lit Marriage Podcast. We are your hosts, Cassidy
and Daniela.
And today, Daniela, we want to talk about God's timing versus
our timing.
And for those of you who are listening out there, we just want to say God bless you and thank you so much for tuning in, because we have actually been
a little MIA.
Yeah,
for a while.
We've been away for some time, focusing a little bit more on our family and God
transition
has been,
that we've been going through. Just a lot.
Yeah, lots of things have been happening in our lives, and
good things. We
praise God for that, because that time away was needed.
Absolutely.
But we do miss
Refreshing.
you. We do miss you a lot, and we miss talking to you. So, yeah, welcome to this next episode, and we're just going to dive right into today's conversation about God's timing versus ours. And this is one of those, conversations that they're needed so badly, right? In our marriage, for us, really, we've actually sort of been out of sync in a few instances,
right.
Few scenarios in our marriage, and as a result, we have had to step back for some time and to reevaluate, recalculate, recalibrate,
right, exactly.
to figure out, what are you saying, God? Where are you taking us? What's happening?
What do you want us to do and when?
And we know very well that God often tells us the what,
but not the how.
Not the how.
At least not all at once.
Exactly. It sort of all plays out in the end. But really, when you are out of sync, when you are out of timing,
right,
with what God has for you in your life, it can be a little frustrating.
Yep.
Because you often wonder, where is God? Is he even with me?
Right.
What am I doing? Why am I doing what I'm doing, and all these things? Have you ever felt that way in your marriage? Have you ever felt, where is God, and why would he have instructed me to do this thing, and yet he's not with me?
It's not happening?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
It doesn't seem to be going anywhere?
Right.
Or he'll give you like a word was spoken over you, and you just,
right.
It was confirmed, and it was God.
Right.
And maybe it was 10 years ago, and you're not seeing it come to fruition. Right? So then you start wondering, now you start doubting, like, was that God? Or like, did he mean it? Or did God give up on me? Or did he pick someone else?
Yeah.
Did he skip? Oh, sorry, we're moving on. You
Wow.
don't fit the bill. But I don't think that's those are just questions that I guess come up. I'm sure different people have asked. And I think we've all been in a place where we felt that way.
Right. And it does put a strain on the marriage.
Yeah, it affects everything else in your life.
Absolutely.
Because then you start feeling insecure about yourself, about, what we often associate our worth with what we do, or with our calling.
Yeah.
Right? And that's actually a big mistake.
Wow.
Because we are not our calling.
Yeah, that is not what defines us.
Exactly.
Right?
It may be a very important part of the puzzle of
Right.
why we're here, why we were created, but
Right.
it's also, it's not what determines your worth.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing that I think people struggle with. And when you're in that limbo, that time of limbo where you're not really sure what's going on.
Should we go east, west, north, south, up, down?
And I honestly believe people's biggest problem, especially in the culture we live in,
Right.
is waiting. We're not good at waiting. And when we look at all the Bible stories,
Right.
we see that God called different people to do different things. They had a huge calling,
Yeah.
but it didn't come to fruition until like 40 years later sometimes. Or,
Hello, Moses.
yeah. Or like look at what happened with Joseph.
Yeah.
You know, he was sold into slavery first. He went through so much. Then he was thrown in jail
Right.
before he became a leader
Yeah.
of a nation. So we often forget about that part. We want to kind of chop that piece out.
Right.
And we want to go right to but I was called to do this. I should be
Right.
doing this. But we forget that there's a preparation
Yeah.
period.
Well, and as a result of that, there at times you find people making wrong choices,
And rash
choices,
decisions, because they think,
Yes.
well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
So they try to squeeze it and
Yeah.
make it happen.
Yeah, and you might end up making investments,
Right.
or
Taking risks.
taking
thinking
risks,
God's got it. God's got this.
Yeah.
But did God tell you to remortgage your house
right?
to do that one thing that you think was for ministry?
Yeah,
Was it really God telling you to do that?
and
Was it his timing?
And then, as a result of all that, it causes rifts in the marriage, right? So I guess the question is, can you even relate to a situation like that? Have you made choices or decisions or investments, business deals,
Right.
ministry, like
Investments, I guess,
yeah, that you look back at, and maybe it's caused rifts in the marriage.
I mean, this is a popular one in some Christian, especially charismatic circles, I find, is I'm going to do this by faith. I'm going to plant my seed.
Right.
Right? And it's very easy to get carried away thinking, well, God's got to do this now because I'm taking this risk. But we're putting the cart before the horse,
Right.
because you have to first get the revelation from God,
Right.
before you go ahead and do something. Otherwise,
Right.
we're making God into a genie,
Absolutely.
and we're making him do our will, right? Rather than us doing his will.
I've seen people who've said, I'm gonna sow a seed, and you can't pay your rent.
Oh,
You can't.
now that
pay
ain't right.
You can't pay your.
That's something
can't
ain't right
pay-
there.
You can't pay your mortgage. I mean, this is serious stuff.
It is serious.
because people are,
it
people are
happens.
making these decisions for one reason or the other.
Right.
And perhaps we are thinking we are doing this by faith. And this is what we're trying to decipher today. This is what we're trying to sort of have a discussion about, and to really bring some of these thoughts to light, because it weighs on the marriage, where
It really does.
it causes all sorts of problems.
Yeah, because when that thing fails,
Yes.
then what happens? Now who are you going to blame, right? And I mean, I think it really impacts not only your marriage, but even your faith.
Yeah.
Because now you're thinking, I was putting my faith in a fantasy, really,
Right.
right?
And maybe, like we said, it's probably not the right timing.
Yeah.
Because we're
It could have
talking
been the
about
right thing, but just like you
not
said,
the
wrong
right
timing.
timing.
You skipped the prep period.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about that? There is a preparation period that is necessary in attaining the goal and the vision that God has for your life, for your ministry, for your marriage.
That's right.
And it is important to not skip the preparation period.
Yeah.
It might be difficult, and most times it is. Most times you go through quite the ordeal in the
Absolutely.
preparation stages in order to get to the end goal that God has in mind for you.
That's right. Well, we have an example even when you think about David,
Right?
right? He was going through the preparation period
Right.
when he was being a shepherd. right? He was called by God to be a shepherd boy, to shepherd the sheep before he could actually control an entire kingdom, right? So he had to go through something that was probably shunned upon by most people. It was such a simple task. Like a shepherd is not much.
Right.
Back in the day in the Middle East. It wasn't like a high position. But that's where he learned responsibility to be able to next take it up a notch and start shepherding people.
Yeah.
So that when we see that example, that principle applies in all other areas. And maybe we want to just skip right to the ruling.
Yeah.
Rather than, the different stages in between where you have to kind of get your hands dirty first, get some sheep poop on your boots.
Wow.
Shovel.
You got to smell like sheep.
That's right.
Pastors we see
smell like sheep.
Yeah,
right?
we see
Real
a lot of
shepherds
leaders.
Smell like sheep.
We see a lot of leaders. They do not smell like sheep.
Yeah, they just want to.
But
they like the leading position,
yes.
but they don't want to. They don't want the humility aspect of it. But you learn that humility in those phases of preparation.
Those messy, smelly,
harder, smelly, stinky stages. You can't skip that.
No.
You can't skip that.
And there's some planning that is involved as well. And even in the planning stages, you have to prepare for the unknown, because you will be thrown off balance. There are some curveballs that will come at you
yes.
in life that you will have to, even after planning.
Right. Even after planning, exactly. You're still going to have curveballs. Everything's not perfect. It's not just going to be handed to you on a silver platter because God said that this was your calling.
Right.
I mean, we do live on earth.
Look at Joseph.
We're not in heaven yet.
Look at Joseph.
Yeah.
That's a prime example, because...
Can you imagine what must have gone through his mind?
It started out with a dream for this guy. Mm-hmm. Actually, first he was given the coat of many colors.
Right.
And that was the beginning of his destiny right there. He was to be a great leader. A great leader. Right? A representation of the 12 tribes. Those multicolors on his robe, right? And then he was a dreamer on top of it, and dreamers are shunned often because, people don't like to hear about these so-called impossible
dreams and visions. It's like, who do you think you are? Get
right?
back to earth.
So fall in line, follow the system, follow the 3-step plan. You got to do this, do that. But a dreamer, they just see the end goal, right? And so here's Joseph as a dreamer, and he talking about his dreams, and
probably wasn't being very discerning with his dreams, and that's another thing. I think he probably
too soon. See again?
Too soon.
Totally out of the timing.
And some things could have been avoided. Like perhaps he wouldn't have been thrown in that big well and sold to slavery had he just held his tongue. But he just kind of blurted it out. And you have to really protect your dreams as well.
Absolutely.
That's doing things prematurely can cost you a lot.
Big time.
A lot of pain. Got to go around that mountain
big time.
A few times.
Yeah, so you can
still get to your destiny, but it's going to take you a lot longer, and you're going to pay a lot more for it.
So in other words, sometimes it's best the things that God has placed in your spirit, in your heart, about the vision for your life, sometimes it's good to just pray into it.
Absolutely. And be careful with who you share these dreams.
Absolutely.
And it has to do with accountability and trust. You want to be able to share these things with trusted people that have your best interests at heart, and they're also going to pray into the same thing. They're not going to cause you they're not going to be jealous of you and actually cause you harm because who do you think you are? You're not going to up me,
right?
So that takes discernment,
right?
It could be people you think are are very close to. It could be family. It could be
people who are very spiritual
on the surface.
Absolutely. There's another stage, partnership. You know,
that's a big one right there.
You could get into some real good partnerships or some very not so good partnerships.
And that's why the timing is so important.
Yes.
You gotta wait until God connects you to these destiny partners. Because if they're not there, then you can't get the task done. Right? We all need each other. God made us interdependent. Yeah. You're not going to do it alone. And if you have that idea in your mind, you're in trouble.
One of the things
He's going to send people to help.
One of the things that we've prayed for in our ministry is destiny partners. We've often also prayed for uncommon favor. Yes. You know, and some of the things that we've seen God do in our lives, He's totally just
blowing our socks off.
Yeah, He's surprised us in ways that we can't even begin to imagine or even explain right now, you know. But man, like when God sets you up, when God places you in a place with His timing, you can be assured that He's going to see you through. And one of the things that we've often talked about is that God is not a start and stop kind of God. No. He doesn't start something and then stop right in the middle and say, yeah, He's a finishing kind of God.
That's right.
He will finish what He started. The Bible says that He will I'm trying to paraphrase the scripture here, but he will see His word to the very end.
That's right.
Right? And that's the kind of God that we serve. If God started something in your life, in your family, in your marriage, He will finish it. He will take it to the very end. But it has to be done within His timing. And I guess the last point that we want to talk about today is position. One of our prayers that we've often prayed is that God would allow us to be at the right place at the right time. At the right time,
yes.
Because that's where you meet your destiny partners.
Exactly. That's where everything aligns itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we talked about making bad decisions, investing hundreds, if not thousands of dollars that could eventually cause such a weight on your marriage. And we've seen it.
Oh, yes.
We've seen it. In fact, it's happened to us a few times where we've made some decisions where we are like gong-ho on these decisions, and then all of a sudden it's like
they became learning experiences. Yeah. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And that's why we can talk to you about this. You know, maybe this is, you know, something that you've gone through. Maybe you've lost thousands and thousands of dollars in your ventures that you have done. But I want you to understand that nothing that you've done will go to waste. If you have not heard anything else that I say today, that we are saying today, is that nothing that you have done will go to waste. God is going to use every scrap.
Right. He's a redeemer. And even your mistakes.
Yes.
If you made mistakes and you have all these regrets and you kind of feel like it's really affected it's made you feel insecure and kind of useless, like a failure, really. Right. He will use those things once, like He realigns you. Absolutely. Once you submit yourself back to Him, it's never too late to submit to Him. And once you start walking in obedience, you start hearing His voice. You learn to be patient. You learn to wait on Him. He has this way of it's like a GPS. Yeah. Where, you ever hear it? Recalculating route. Yeah. That's what He does.
Is that how the GPS sounds?
It sounds a little better when God says it. But recalculating route. He will do that. Yes. Yeah. And he does redeem time.
He does.
And resources and everything else that you have put out. He has a way of he's like, hold on. Hold my beer. Yeah. No. Sorry, hold my wine.
Hold my Bible.
I'm going to fix that.
God does have a way of just redeeming things, and I totally agree with you on that, because we've seen it in our own lives, which is why we can say this to you today. If you took, say, the wrong route, God has a way of really cleaning things up and put you back on path, which is what you're really saying there. So, and we've seen it in our own lives, because we've had failures in our own lives where we thought, that's it, we're done for, and God's like, not really. Nope. I'm going to use every bit of your experiences to help others. And that's ultimately what comes from all these, if you want to say, bad experiences, bad investments, bad decisions.
You really get to see God's character shine. Like, you really get to see his grace even more, because you realize no matter what I do, I'm still not worthless to him.
Right.
He still values me even after I've screwed up and I ignored him and I didn't listen and I wanted to be stubborn and I wanted to do it my way. He still loves us.
And it's all perspective.
Right.
Because in our heads, we've messed up. But God's like,
he's just folding his hands. He's like, okay, are you ready now?
Yeah.
To listen?
Yeah.
You gonna do what I asked you the first time?
Okay. Yeah. Are you ready for me to use your mess?
Because he will.
Yeah. So, you know what? I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
I think it's...
I hope it brings hope, because it really... We've seen God in action in these kinds of situations. And he can literally use anything. Just submit. Just trust him.
He wants to redeem you. He wants to redeem your marriage, your family.
Your screw-ups.
Yeah.
Your rushing, your bad investments.
Yeah. He wants to use all of it.
He will.
And he
can make it right.
Exactly. He can recalibrate.
That's
your
right.
life.
His math is not our math, okay? Just put it that way.
Just know that. Yeah. Well, this was very fun and enlightening conversation. We like having these conversations.
Yeah, I had fun.
With each other. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation today. I hope you would join us again. Please go ahead and share this podcast with a friend or family member who you think will benefit from these conversations. Until next time, keep it lit, and God bless you. We love you. Take care.
Bye-bye.